Hey everybody, welcome to another OG55 Live. Today we are talking about the Disneyland Forward expansion. And there was a proposal that was dropped just the other day that we're going to dive into. Some 80 plus page proposal. A lot to dive into here, a lot of potential. But before we get into any of the Disneyland Forward stuff, I wanted to introduce my amazing panel. As usual, I have my dear friend and great collaborator, Mr. Vash Sky, host of Freshly Squeezed. How you doing today, Dre?
Doing pretty good. Today is, October 31st. We all know what that means. So, got the cuffs on right here. I'm all kind of black labeled out, and I'm ready to get this show off the road. Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it. And down below, I have George, Mr. Disney Family Man 23, host of Citrus Corner here on OG55. George, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Let's do it. So let's get started. Let's kick off this OG55 live.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Yeah. Do it live.
We're officially live. Okay, so let's talk about this proposal. So this Anaheim planning proposal dropped a few days ago. It's like 80 plus pages, and there's a lot of stuff.
And sit back, folks, because we're going to go word for word and page for page. So.
Yeah. We're going through every page, guys. Every page.
Yeah. We're going to look at. We're also going to look at subsections, and we're going to look up every single one of these, regulatory statements that goes to law. We're going to look up that too. So we're going to look up everything. No, joking.
We're doing a deep dive. No, but we're going to go ahead and just talk about really like the juicy stuff. And kind of go into this because there was quite a few tidbits in here that I think were pretty interesting. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Give me just a second or two while we get this up and going. Get the party started. All right, so here is the map. This is an aerial shot of the Disneyland Resort, okay? So this Anaheim proposal, this 80-plus page proposal that's kind of lobbying Anaheim, this Disney's proposal to Anaheim, has a lot of interesting things in this proposal. And one of those things is actually taking Disneyland Drive, which runs all the way down here from the Mickey and Friends and the Pixar parking structure all the way down to Catella. So from Ball Road to Catella. This proposal is asking Anaheim to, from what I understand, is this correct, Ray? Privatize that road? So I'm assuming Disney can go ahead and remove the road? Is that pretty much what they want Anaheim to do here?
Essentially, yeah, they want that road. They want that road to be taken off public, put in private, and essentially closed or abated. That's what they're looking for right there. And I think the implication's obvious, right? We all know why they're doing that. It's, if you follow this, what they have proposed prior to this document, it is the expansion of Disneyland and Disney California Adventure across this street. And everybody was asking, how is that going to come about? Are they going to do land bridges similar to what they've done with the Downtown Disney District? Or what? This is how it's going to work. They're going to close off. They want those roads to be closed off completely. When it comes to traffic and everything like that, I don't think there will be too much of a hiccup because those areas, even like when Harbor's just smashed, I don't quite see a lot of traffic on that road. But like you point out before the show, Grand Californian, that has some interesting implications for that specific property.
Well, yeah, the Grand Cali, because that's right there on that Disneyland Drive, and that's where you pull in to into that hotel. That's a lucrative hotel for Disney. Other properties on there like the Paradise Pier Hotel, little expendable, you know. I mean, they can, you know, do with or without that one, but I think the Grand Cali is going to be a tough thing to figure out logistically. But I agree with you, Dre. I mean, in terms of like the traffic, really there's no reason for people to be driving down this road if they're not going to Disney anyway. This is really a Disney road. It's kind of like legally, technically, it's not privatized already, but it's kind of only used for Disney stuff anyway. So why not privatize it? Let Disney do with it what they please. You know, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, George? What are your thoughts on kind of removing Disneyland Drive basically from the end of the Pixar PAL structure all the way down to Catella? What are your thoughts on that, man?
I mean, that's going to be a heavy piece of land to kind of maneuver everything, because you already have foundation set aside between that road, between the two theme parks, and then you have the hotels on the other side of the road. So, I mean, we all know how construction is with Disney. I mean, we've been to DCA when they were making Carthay Circle and Cars Land at that time, and you have to kind of maneuver like through this labyrinth of walls. And so I'm just trying to figure out like the day-to-day operations and the activities of that's going to be going on between both sides of that street. How are they literally going to keep things up and running and still get all this done based off of what they're proposing they want to do? So it's like, I'm not saying they can't do it, but it's definitely an ambitious task at hand.
It is. It's a very ambitious task, and it really is kind of like, you know, a juggling act. I mean, you know, there, like I said, the Grand Cali is right there. If you get rid of these
now, where's
roads,
the parking structure for Grand Cali on this map?
Well, Grand Cali, I don't know. They don't really have a parking structure, but here's the Grand Cali right here. And you kind of like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but here's the road, Disneyland Drive, and you go down Disneyland Drive, and this is where you pull in and you check in for the hotel. It's like right around here. So this is the road they want to privatize and basically remove.
I think there's like a little underground structure at Disneyland at the Grand Californian Hotel and Spa. There's like a little one. It's tiny though.
Now,
it's only
I tried
reserved.
reading through everything, you know, again, attempting. Are they wanting to close down that whole section from Ball Road down at once, or are they going to break it off into segments?
The proposal only outlines that that any of these proposed items be carried out over the next 30 years in phases. So,
which I think is actually kind of interesting, because Dave from Fresh Baked had mentioned that at the end of his video about that it said in the clause, you know, this is going to be a 30 plus year, you know, working. And, you know, when you stop and you think about it and say, well, you know, why can't this all be done now? Or why can't this be done in like 5 to 10 years? In a way, I think that's a good thing for Disneyland.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what everybody wants to say. Disneyland will never be completed, you know, so you want that to keep on moving. So it makes me feel good to say, hey, 30 plus years from now, Disneyland will still be moving, quote unquote, forward.
Yeah, I agree with you, George. I mean, you don't want not to be too gross here, but you don't want to blow your wad all at once. I mean, you kind of want to have a little bit of like, you want to save some stuff, you know, for future expansions. You don't want to build everything at once and then you have nothing again in 5 years. You want to be able to have, you know, land and room to grow for decades. So the 30-year plan is a smart one. And look, here's the thing. I know a lot of fans hate the idea of change. I hate the idea of change. If you don't like change at Disneyland or even DCA, this Disneyland Forward proposal is the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because if you don't expand the perimeters of where Disney can build theme park, then you're going to inevitably come to the point where you're going to have to destroy and build on top of old stuff forever. So I don't want to ever get to a point where it's like either like we save the tiki room or we get a new ride. I don't want to get to that point. And the only way we don't get to that point anytime soon is from proposals like this. We need more land to expand. Otherwise, all these other attractions that we love so dearly are on the chopping block potentially because there's just no other room to go, you know?
Yeah, and that's the argument that Disneyland, Disney themselves use in the Disneyland Forward project. It's like, hey, look, we're getting to a point here where we're, like you said, we're going to have to take things out if we're going to ever expand. And they obviously want to, prevent that from happening, or at least push it off until all of their existing land is saturated. And really, that's the thing about this. It really isn't, they're not buying new real estate, so to speak. They're taking the real estate they already own, they already pay taxes on, they already own outright, and are simply just rezoning it for development of either theme park space or hotel space or whatever. All they're looking for is just flexibility when it comes to the constraints already provided on them, certain capacity constraints and how much land they own currently. They're just looking to use the land they currently have and be given the option of being flexible with it.
Right, exactly. So this is a great. I mean, look, I'm actually very like George said. I'm really encouraged by the the 30-year timeline. I want them to kind of be like a slow burn, so to speak. I want them to take their time and really flesh these things out. I don't want it to be rushed. I don't want it to just kind of be like here's everything at once. So it's interesting, but yeah, I don't know logistically what they're gonna do in terms of that road. I mean, like
because
how
automatically when they first gave the proposal, automatically they showed us the main concept of where the expansion would be for the parks and then for the downtown Disney area and what have you. But we never really focused on what is to become of that long stretch of road. And then when they gave this 82-page proposal, it's like, okay, it's sort of kind of breaking down the logistics of what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And you can read it on paper, but then it's like, okay, when you're actually going to be physically doing this, how much of a nightmare it's going to be to then have to block off certain roads, reroute guests, because I assume with all this that they're going to attempt to try to do the Eastern Gateway again.
Oh yeah. That's still on the table. It's even mentioned here a couple times. But moreover, I mean, people, Tony Adams just chimed in with the 30 years, how it, kind of disappointed it is going to take so long. I think it's also practical. A lot of these changes are huge. They're massive, and you're going to require time to reroute certain things and so forth. So it's 30 years. Yeah, it does kind of extend it out, obviously, but it's going to take a while. Just like you said, George, earlier, to reroute this traffic and to come up with solutions for the Grand Californian Hotel, the Paradise Pier Hotel in the middle of all this. It's just that's kind of the reality of the operation. So when you look at this and you go, man, how is this all going to work? It's like, yeah, well, it's going to work slowly over 30 years. That's how it's going to be. I do wonder, like you said, though, man, how are they going to get access to the Grand Californian? Like how is that going to work here?
and honestly, and based on that assumption, as much as people would want to see the expansion of the parks and maybe possibly new hotels, new rides, new attractions, I think honestly Disney has to tackle the reroute of these roads and get everything kind of done first. So it's sort of like kind of getting the not so fun stuff done before we get all the expansion of the parks themselves.
Right. And Nope here says fire Bob. Now, Nope. Here's the blessing, the silver lining for that 30-year timeline for Disneyland Forward is that there's a very, very good chance that Bob Chapek will not be the CEO for 30 plus years. So if you're worried about the quality of these expansions, it's probably not going to be under Bob Chapek, or at least not all of it. At least will not be under Bob Chapek. This is going to, this project will span multiple CEOs. So, Nope, if you don't like Bob Chapek, well, the 30-year timeline might be good for you then.
And to George's point and Samuel Blank's point in the chat, I mean, it'll realistically, we're probably talking that the infrastructure be done first. So
Right.
the Eastern Gateway be done first. Because you can't build anything on Toy Story without parking to at least replace what you lost. So you're going to get a lot of infrastructural projects probably during the bulk of Chapek's term. And then the priority probably switches, to Samuel Blank's point, to DCA, I would imagine. A lot of people have been talking about, like, is Disneyland going to get expanded? Disney California Adventure going to be expanded? Is it going to be both? Is it going to be one or the other? My feeling has always been Disneyland's probably not gonna be branched out in the way that it is proposed on the Disneyland Forward website or whatever. It's probably going to be Disney California Adventure. It just, practically speaking, it makes a lot more sense, and especially for the issues that we cited here earlier regarding Disneyland Drive. It just makes the most practical sense that Disney California Adventure be expanded over that road rather than Disneyland. So that's kind of where my intuition is, and I would say it's fairly accurate.
No, I agree with Samuel. I mean, and I agree with you, Dre. I mean, first of all, Disneyland is it's a stacked park, in terms of attractions. It has, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have the most attractions in any Disney park. I mean, even in Florida with all the size and everything, we still have more rides at Disneyland. And that's because it had, I think, like 40 years of like being the only park in Anaheim. So anytime Imagineering made an attraction, it went to Disneyland. It went to Disneyland. It went to Disneyland. We didn't have multiple parks to spread it out over. Disneyland doesn't really need, at least right now, all that extra acreage. It's kind of good. They have Tomorrowland to deal with, right?
Yeah.
DCA, though, is a smaller, more modest park. That extra land, whatever the acreage is for that land, would really benefit DCA a whole lot. And DCA needs it a whole lot more than Disneyland does. I agree completely.
So you guys think that Disneyland would be the last part of the section to actually get an expansion, or just kind of like Disney holding it on the side to say, well, if we ever need to expand it for whatever reason, we have the land to do so?
Correct. Yeah, I think it's a I
could actually understand it, like sort of like working from the bottom, like from this photo anyways, work from the bottom up.
Yeah, I think it's an accurate assessment. I think Disneyland is, like I said, so stacked, right? DCA needs a lot more help, a lot more work. And again, if we want to talk about third gate there, I would think that the third gate would be closer in our future than a Disneyland proper expansion. And that's just practically speaking.
And that's probably where the 30 year would come in. You would have that extra land to say, well, in 20, 25 years, we can have the possibility of expanding Disneyland Park, but let's focus on sort of like the other gaps within the resort to kind of tackle first. But I actually agree with you, OG, that I think that they'll kind of deal with what's in the park of Disneyland first before using that extra land, as far as like with Tomorrowland and possibly even expanding Fantasyland.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. You mentioned third park, and a good buddy of mine, Astro Orbiter, shout out to Astro Orbiter. He's a friend of the channel. He actually did kind of like the legwork on the acreage in regards to what it would take to actually build a third park, not in the Toy Story lot, but in this proposed area we're discussing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This is pretty cool. This is actually pretty cool. And here it is. So this is 74 acres. Now, I know a lot of fans will be like, well, 74 acres? That's not enough for a theme park. Well, DCA, if you exclude the Grand Cali, is only like 75 acres. So it's comparable to a DCA sized park. And this is what you would have. Now, I think even Astro Orbiter kind of concedes this is a weird layout for a park, but hey, you know what? We have weird layouts all the time for theme parks. Universal Hollywood is like an upper lower lot thing, and
2 stories,
right? So it's like, come on, I mean, this is a weird layout, absolutely, but this is 74 acres right there. I mean, let's just say they scrap the idea of the expansions of DCA and Disneyland, and they just go with this third park thing. Dre, what are your thoughts on this? Would you support this, or is it a little too weird? A little too weird of a layout, a little too weird of a setup here.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how he's drawn this up. Practically speaking, where are people going to park? For the Disneyland Hotel right there. So practically speaking, I think if you were looking at a third gate on this plot of land, it would most likely envelop the Disneyland Hotel. It wouldn't work around it. It would probably it would probably make use of that real estate and relocate those rooms probably to where the Toy Story lot is today. If we were working under this kind of presumption here. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. It kind of seems like, because there are some references to rooms in certain locations and so forth, it seems like that might not totally be the route that they're going. It seems like, or if they are, they're going to integrate hotel space with that. So I don't know. Practically speaking, I think more likely than not, we would get an expansion of Disney California Adventure in that southern portion right there, and in that northern portion, it would probably be reserved for a new structure that would service not only downtown Disney, but also Disneyland Hotel, the Grand Cali, and all that. So that's probably most likely. Also, too, I was just thinking about it now. Magic Way is at the north of that map that you have right there, correct? It's just south of the Pixar Palace parking structure.
Let me go ahead and bring that up. Give me one moment. Let me bring that up.
Sure.
Give me one sec. Just want to make sure I have. Okay, there we go. This map right here is what you're referring to?
Yeah, so we were thinking about how to get traffic to and from the Grand Californian Hotel, right? And I believe Magic Way is it just below the Pixar Palace parking structure right there? Is that the street? Okay.
And I don't know if you guys can see this, but where my cursor is right here, this is Magic Way.
Right I believe it makes reference to that street specifically in the proposal. And if I'm not mistaken, well, if my presumption is correct, I believe that's how you could route traffic in and out of that area to service those hotels below. So I think that's the way they would go. And then you would just have, like I said, I think even the illustrations that Disney published bear this out, that you would have structures in that quadrant.
And that's probably what they would want to do anyways, because you can't combine everything at once, because that's the whole point of having two separate parks. So I think Disney Way would be a nice kind of cutoff, that if they ever do use that upper section for a Disneyland expansion, it would separate then for what they use for downtown Disney, and then separate for DCA. So, and then they could still use that for traffic flow.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be something like that. I think you're on the right track there, George.
Yeah. Now, what do you fellas think? I'll start with you, Dre, then I'll go down to George. What do you guys think is the future of this Paradise Pier Hotel? I mean, Disney has really stopped all investments on this hotel. I mean, it's been 3 years. 3 years since they rethemed the whole area to Pixar Pier, and they still haven't changed anything in regards to the hotel. Is it dead hotel? Is it basically dead hotel walking right now? Is this part? Are they going to bulldoze this hotel to kind of facilitate this expansion of DCA? Will they incorporate it and just retheme it? What do you feel about that, Dre?
I think the hotel as we know it is dead.
Yeah.
I think the hotel that as it exists right now is not long for this world, and I think Disney knows that. That's why, and we've had discussions about this previously on this show. That's why they've kind of not invested into it, right? They haven't really even changed the name to the Pixar Pier Hotel. It'd be a simple thing. It would cost some money, of course, and I think they've even kind of shoved that kind of investment out of the way, so to speak. If you look at the proposal itself, it actually makes reference to this on PDF page 22, I think, page 6 on the actual document itself. It says,
and did not to interrupt you, Dre, but I will
Go ahead.
link that whole document in the description down below once this video is uploaded. So I just want to let you guys know if you want to check that out. Go ahead, Dre.
Please. It says right here, this proposal allows for up to 564 hotel rooms at 1717 South Disneyland Drive, Paradise Pier Hotel. So even here, they recognize, because I think the Paradise Pier Hotel right now has like 475 rooms. They recognize like I think this is referencing the Paradise Pier Hotel clearly for the purposes of doing something on this property concerning, a kind of redevelopment of this for the purposes of hotel rooms specifically, right? And it's like, well, it has 475 rooms now or whatever. How does it get to 564? I think it gets there from either a complete overhaul or a complete demolishing and rebuild on or near that plot of land, and it better integrates itself into the areas surrounding it, presently and future. So I think that's where they're going with that.
Yeah, and I hope you're right. I'm kind of look, I'm kind of leaning more towards like a bulldoze and rebuild. And yeah. Dave, our friends over at Fresh Baked, he did a great video the other day about this whole Disneyland Forward expansion, and he was talking about how cool it would be to kind of be in the Paradise Pier Hotel and kind of having theme parks surrounding you. And I agree with him on that when you're in the hotel. Yeah. But what does the view look like when you're in the theme park? Yeah. That's my issue. So I would hope, because it really is kind of an ugly hotel. I really hope they bulldoze it. It's hideous. It's absolutely hideous. It's outdated looking. It's hideous. I would love to see them demolish it and rebuild that hotel to better coincide with whatever theme park section is right there. Look, the Grand Cali. I love the Grand Cali. It was built from the ground up from the beginning. It was designed with the notion of being part of DCA, and it works so seamlessly in that. If you can bulldoze the Paradise Pier Hotel and rebuild it with that same idea of it integrated into California Adventure, you could have something really special there. But they're trying to shoehorn an existing thing into the park. It doesn't work. But what do you think, George? What are your feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, fellas. I think as far as the hotel itself, I would say definitely keep it in where it's at. But as far as Pixar Pier, I want to say Pixar Pier. See, because Paradise isn't even in my vocabulary anymore. That title died with the land. So it's like Paradise Pier Hotel as a whole needs to go. I do believe that they should keep the hotel portion where it's at. And as you said, OG, build a hotel that will be themed or at least coexist with whatever is to be there. And I think that would be the perfect location, because if you actually go to what Astro Orbiter had put up as far as the land, where you have that section between both parks, and if you create a whole entire new hotel that can kind of forge between both expansions of the parks, and you almost have like an aerial 360 that no matter where you are in that hotel, no matter what room you're in, that you could either have a viewpoint of Disneyland or California Adventure, or even, Downtown Disney, depending on what section of the hotel you're staying at. I mean, I'm for sure a lot of people would spend a lot of money to stay at a hotel like that, especially with, I know this is in Orlando, but of what Epic Universe is doing right now, where they're actually putting a hotel within the park facility.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. That's the future. Look, that's the future of theme parks. It's this real integrated themed experience. We're seeing that in Orlando a lot with Epic Universe, Universal's new resort coming in a few years, and with even like the Star Cruiser, that Star Wars Star Cruiser, where the hotel is like, part of that experience. It's like a cruise line, but in outer space and what have you. All of this stuff is becoming much more integrated and much more of like an overall experience. So you're absolutely right, George, 100% on that.
Oh, and
And,
also,
and kind of going back to your question before of asking, would a third park fit well? I think even if they were to do a third park there, I think that would still even benefit because again of what Epic Universe is doing, you would have a themed hotel that could
Right.
be based upon the whole theme of the third gate. And as far as the shape and the outline goes, I mean, if you look at Walt Disney World's parks, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom all have sort of like an oval or a round kind of spectrum of the shape of the park. Hollywood Studios looks like a germ spore.
Oh, that's funny.
well, I think I to reference the other point made about hotels and integrating with theme parks. I mean, we've seen this now, I think 3 times from Disney. We saw this from Disneyland Paris and the kind of entrance facade as it integrates with Disneyland Hotel there. We saw this with the Grand California and DCA, and we also saw this with Tokyo Disney Seas and the kind of the Mediterranean Harbor entrance portal with those 2 resort hotels there. So I think that is the future. I think this is kind of where it's going, and I think they kind of recognize that not only in some of the illustrative work that we've seen, but also in this proposal right here. I think it's only natural that whatever hotel complex that is built in this area going forward be integrated in its surroundings far better than the current iteration of hotels in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pivot now to the other side of this.
Yes.
Let's pivot a little bit. Because there was also some verbiage in this proposal, this proposal to the city of Anaheim and I hope you guys can see this, man.
No, I think we can.
Can you see that?
We can make it out.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. So right here, South Clementine Street, okay, which is right behind Garden Walk. This little square right here is Garden Walk, and then Clementine Street right here runs right behind Garden Walk, and then this street right here, Gene Autry Way. Disney is lobbying Anaheim to sort of like either. The verbiage is really weird because it's all in like this weird kind of legalese. But from what I understand, they want to minimize these roads or maybe outright eliminate them. And their justification for this is for what they want to do with the Toy Story lot, right? So they want to minimize or get rid of Gene Autry Way and South Clementine because of what their plans are for right here, which is the Toy Story lot. Dre, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it makes sense because they kind of I think they interfere with some of the further seeking proposals that I think Disneyland or I think Disney I should say has in mind for these kind of areas, and there's no real getting around them. Kind of practically speaking, other than just having them kind of closed off outright and so forth. So I think that's what it's speaking to. When it comes to that, it's just like you could have land bridges in various areas, but it's like practically speaking, it'd be better to kind of close these areas off, so that way they can be part of a kind of a holistic operation at the Disneyland Resort.
Yeah, and I have someone here, a Janice Falcione, saying hi. This is George's mom. I enjoy watching you 3 as always. Well, thank you, Janice. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, Mom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Janice. Thank you. But I agree with you, Dre, in regards to that. I mean, they do need, look, overall, I'm actually very surprised at how ambitious this Disneyland Forward proposal is. Mm-hmm. Because my initial feelings on this proposal was that they were going to take the existing properties and sort of just lobby Anaheim to rezone them.
Yeah.
It seems like it's much more involved than that. And we've seen this with the other side with the South Disneyland Drive where they're wanting to get rid of that whole street. And we're seeing it now here with, Clementine Street and the Gene Autry Way. They're not, look, folks at home, they are not just going for the land. They're trying to reimagine the infrastructure around the resort, where like they're removing roads, minimizing roads, privatizing roads. This is huge, massive.
To simplify it, it's basically looking at that and picturing Mickey Rourke's face. It's just going to be reworked all over.
It's going to be reworked, right?
Yeah.
You have. So what's interesting here, and why they go into such specific detail surrounding kind of the environmental impact of all of this. This is all kind of going back to the environmental impact report that Disney kind of has to follow whenever it proposes these things to the city of Anaheim. And so, like, for example, it outlines how many hotel rooms they can have, in the various properties they have now. Like, I think it's like 5,600 or something like that, and I don't even think they're halfway at that point. Well, maybe some people are suggesting, like, why have such capacity constraints? It's because what does that do to traffic when you have over 5,600 rooms, right? What does that do to the surrounding area? How many people, can you necessarily hire that many people within the Anaheim area to service those rooms and so forth? Like, it all has kind of an impact on the kind of greater Anaheim area, and that's why those capacity constraints are placed on. So when you see, like, streets being rerouted and things being taken from 6 lanes to 4 and all this kind of stuff, it would be, have a significant impact, as the later sections of the proposal actually state. So this is pretty ambitious.
And it's even like one of our viewers, Michael. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name, Tyree.
Yeah, let me bring up Michael's comment so everyone can see.
When he's saying, of how long it would take for Disneyland, for 30 years to fill the space, Walt Disney World, it was built, in less time than that, which is actually a very good point. It really has. Yeah. I think this kind of goes through both ways, again, of what we were said earlier, that I think, especially with Disneyland, because Disneyland recently has gotten the short end of the stick for a lot of things, during the D23 Expo, for even their 50th anniversary, Walt Disney World got a lot of things where Disneyland really didn't. And I think now is the time where you want to expand and stretch upon that notion, because those were Walt's words, that Disneyland will never be complete, as long as there's imagination left in the world. And what we're looking at right now is imagination of how they are literally reworking everything around to try to expand this resort. And then also the difference with Walt Disney World is Walt Disney World already has an epic amount of land that is completely separated from the general public restaurants, public buildings, public roads. It's basically all Disney. Where with Disneyland, they have to rework around the city of Anaheim itself. And that's what's the whole point, where they have to literally go through the city in order to get acceptance of what they can or cannot do.
And I want to expand on that just a little bit, because I think that this touches on kind of the biggest point that really nobody is really talking about here. When you look at the comparisons between Walt Disney World and Disneyland, I don't think it's a very fair comparison, simply because Walt Disney World, that has its own kind of governing body almost.
Reedy Creek, right?
From Reedy Creek Development, and they can pass their own liquor licenses. I mean, this, and honestly, when you look at the,
good for Baby Yoda, though, right?
Yeah, right. Constitutionally, I don't even think it's legal, but no, this is the setup and arrangement that was given to Walt Disney World specifically for the purposes of building EPCOT back when it was then known as a city. Some of these things, in order to streamline this and to facilitate, some of the ideas that they had proposed back all that way, this was to facilitate that. So they have like the ability to make their own nuclear power plant and all kinds of stuff that, Disneyland can only dream of. And because of that process, everything is streamlined. They can just they can build whatever they want to on that, 45,000 acres or so. I mean, they can do, or is it 28,000?
27,000.
27,000. Okay, yeah, I always get the 45 square miles.
The 40,
yeah, all confused. But they can do whatever they want, right? They can do whatever they want with the land. It's theirs. They're their own government entity. Disneyland is not anywhere close to that. We just saw some big projects completely get sidelined because of some of the red tape that the city of Anaheim places on Disney. We saw with the Eastern Gateway project that was going forward. They had spent hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of dollars worth of building permits and development dollars to get that project facilitated. It was right there, about to get the green light to start, and well, the business owners around there successfully, I think, lobbied to not have that go through because they were seeing that as a bypass of their business.
Well, and even that fourth hotel that they wanted to build,
yes.
Disney changed it. I think they changed the placement of the hotel by just a few feet.
115 feet, I believe.
115 feet, and Anaheim told them no because they moved it 115 feet.
Yes.
All those jobs down the toilet because of 115 feet.
That was a disaster.
And that was after they shut down the AFC Theater, the ESPN Zone, all that stuff. They had shut down those jobs, completely lost for a project that never happened because they couldn't take advantage of an incentivization program that Anaheim itself started. The whole thing was just a whole big cluster, right? I mean, the whole thing was a complete mess. But I think the most significant part of this whole proposal that nobody's talking about deals with this issue specifically. If you go to page 23, PDF page 23, page 7 on the actual document itself, it states, I'm going to read this whole thing because I think it's really important, okay?
And this is why I love Dre, because he brings the data. I love it. I bring it.
Future streamlined review. The project, this proposal, would allow future streamlined review by the city of the applicant's projects in the Disneyland Resort, I think it's specific plan, and at properties within the Anaheim Resort specific plan owned or controlled by the applicant or other subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Company. Okay? Upon approval of this project, the property owner could submit building plans for projects proposed by the applicant, Disney, in the DRSP, or the Disneyland Resort specific plan, or at Disney Anaheim Resort specific plan properties to the Planning and Building Department for review by the Planning Services Division for conference with the applicable specific plans and associated zoning standards prior to issuance of building permits. If the plans are in conformance with the objective standards, that means if it follows the environmental impact report, all that, if it follows those things, no discretionary review by the planning director, planning commission, or the city council would be required. What they're saying right there is this whole BS where they have these city council meetings and everybody and their grandmother gets up for like 3 hours and says how bad Disney is. All these politicians, these bureaucrats, all of this red tape, they want that axed. They want that axed. They just had 2 huge projects they spent probably millions of dollars on completely get, tanked because of this process. And right here, this is probably the most impactful paragraph in this whole 82-page document. Right here is where they can get around that. So that has huge implications, not just for this project, but for Disneyland Resort going all the way forward.
And right now, it's basically the waiting game because, Disney proposed this 82-page proposal document, and now just the city of Anaheim has to grant them everything that they're asking for.
Yeah, and look, this is a negotiation. In any negotiation, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. So will Disneyland get everything they're asking for? No, they will not. Will Anaheim get everything they want? No, they will not. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's a negotiation. So, but I do think Disney has much more leverage now than they did 2 and 3 years ago with that whole Eastern Gateway drama.
If there's anything that Disney should get granted out of this is what Dre just read. Because that is crucial. That is
huge. Huge, because that would allow them to just say, hey, look, does it conform by the EMI or the Environmental Impact Report, EIR? does it conform to those standards? Does it conform to the capacity constraints placed on us? Does it conform to the height regulation and all of that? Good, go. That's essentially what they want. And to be honest, now look, there's a neighborhood involved. There are residents that live there. I've made this argument before. I have made this argument before. Look, you live there. You live with the expectation that you're going to be living next to a theme park. Okay. Right. So it's like, okay, well, you're kind of doing this to yourself. I don't know how many residents actually live there that have been living there since 55 and have passed it down. I don't know the proportion of that, but it can't be that high. Like, you knew when you were getting into this, you're going to be by Disneyland, okay? And if you wanted to get out of it, you could have sold and done that, right? So there are some things where Disneyland will try to do something even for the betterment of some of these surrounding areas, and people will still have kind of these kind of irrational arguments made against them. And it's just like, come on, like, really? This is what they want to get away from, though. They really want to rebalance this equation in their favor. And to be honest, I think some of this red tape could be cut back drastically. Right. And so we don't have some of these projects that are so far along get completely axed right at the last minute through some of these proposals.
And who even knows within the 30-year frame, who even knows if even that neighborhood would even exist at that time, where Disney can come up with something down the road.
Right.
Well, I don't know about all. I don't know. Yeah. You could have some entities buying up pieces of real estate. I don't know. Some could happen. I suppose. I will say, the city and the residents there may have some legitimate arguments and critiques that maybe should be addressed and heard on some level, but just the amount of bureaucracy, the amount of political gamesmanship going on here, it's got to drive Disney up the wall. So I think this is a way to kind of get through that a little bit. Yeah,
and look, and I don't want to come off as insensitive, but Disneyland has been there for 65 plus years. You move next to Disneyland, you're acknowledging, you're aware that you're moving next to the most popular theme park in the world, right? The fireworks and all that comes with that equation of moving into this area. It's not like these people were living there and then, like, last year Disney decided to build a theme park. Disneyland has been there since 1955.
You're moving to Disneyland. Disneyland is not moving to you.
Right.
Exactly.
If you don't like theme parks and you don't like a lot of congestion and people, you probably shouldn't move next to Disneyland. I have very little sympathy for that. I'm sorry. It's like moving next door to like a Burger King and complaining, oh my God, every time
smells like hamburgers.
Yeah, it smells like hamburgers every time I walk in my driveway.
Burger King. Well, yeah, Burger King, but Carl's Jr., that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, see, George loves Carl Jr. He's an East Coast guy, loves Carl. Man, I wish I could send you some Carls, man, but it would probably be pretty gnarly by the time I got there.
Yeah. Probably.
Let's go ahead and I want to go ahead right here. Epic Berserker. Now, Epic has been, I want to say right now, he has been a fan of the channel since day one. This guy has been with me since I started the channel in 2016. So, Epic, thank you, brother, for all your support. And thank you for the donation, sir. We do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Epic is saying, Westcott, tell Cheapo JPEG open that wallet. Hey, look, Epic, I'm with you on that, brother. I want Westcott as much as you do. And, I think that Westcott would be a perfect fit for the Disneyland Resort. Let's get into it, actually. Let's get into like a third park right now, because I want to kind of there's kind of this narrative, and I'm glad you brought this up. There's kind of this narrative that there's no room for a third park. You hear it a lot on YouTube. You hear it a lot on Twitter and things like that. There's just not enough room. Let's dive into that, and then we'll kind of get into the Westcott thing. But let me go ahead and share you my screen real quick. I'm going to go ahead and share you some screen stuff, and we're going to dive into this because this is something that I need to get off my chest. So So Disney California Adventure minus the Grand Cali. We didn't add the Grand Cali in this because the Grand Cali is a hotel. It's not technically theme park. But in terms of acreage, DCA is 73.30 acres. Okay? 73.30 acres for DCA, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of YouTubers and stuff will tell you, well, you can't, like, look, the Toy Story lot is just not big enough. You can't build a third park there. You're a crazy maniac. What are you going to do? You can't build anything there. It's got to be a retail mall. Not true, my friend. Not true. Because when you look at the acreage for the Toy Story lot, which is right here, it's actually a little bit bigger, believe it or not. It's 74 acres, 74.68 acres. And Epic, I'm sorry, I'm going to remove your comment so they can see that. It's 74.68 acres. In terms of theme park space, the Toy Story lot is even a little bigger than DCA.
Mm-hmm.
Even a little bigger. Now, here's the thing. I've watched a lot of videos on this, and because of the concept art that a lot of fans are going to take as verbatim, it has to be a Disney Springs area. There's no, because that's what the concept art says. Well, first of all, number one, it's a 30-year plan. So, good luck with the sticking with the concept art from 2021 until 2041 or something.
No, we can't build that because the concept art that we put out in the 2000s didn't recognize that.
And even in the very beginning, when Disney first announced Disneyland Forward, everything was hypothetical. Nothing is set in place.
Right. Exactly, George. Exactly. This is all about just selling the zoning to the city of Anaheim. This isn't about the concept art is not blueprints. Okay. This is not what we're going to get for sure. This is just a possibility.
And let's face it, even when Disney does make a blueprint, it's never the same thing than what they first give out.
Right. True.
Right. Yeah. Hey, and you're a Florida guy, George. Toy Story Land. You know firsthand how the concept art doesn't end up like
a third of that park got taken out of what we were expected to get.
Exactly. So here's my thing, because the concept art shows that Disney wants to build basically a brick and mortar retail shopping district here in 75 acres worth of land. I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit, you guys. I'm calling bullshit. In a resort that is so limited in space, with a company that's completely abandoning brick and mortar. They're getting rid of the Disney stores. They're not expanding the Disney stores. They're getting rid of brick and mortar and expanding their online presence for online retail. You mean to tell me Disney is going to take 75 acres and dedicate that to brick and mortar retail and dining in a resort that's already limited in space? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I think this is all about zoning, which is what they say it is, but it's all about zoning. They already have, if I'm not mistaken, from Michael Eisner, the zoning for theme park here. This is what Eisner wanted initially, was a theme park.
Yeah.
So they already have that zoning, so they don't need to sell the zoning for the theme park. Right. They have to sell the other stuff, which is the dining and shopping, in case they want to use that. So that's why the concept art showed more of a Disney Springs kind of thing, because that's the zoning they're trying to sell. But if this ends up being a 75-acre shopping district, brick and mortar, I'd be shocked.
And especially with Genie Plus and the Lightning Lanes coming on, they can add more onto that. And then what is that going to do? It's going to allow people to then walk around the park, and you could already have dining and retail within a third gate, just like they do with the other parks.
Well, and here's the thing too, George, you're right. And here's the thing too, with shopping and dining, you don't need 75 acres for that. Yeah. I mean, Disney could buy a hotel or two and do the same thing. They don't need to have 75 acres in a resort so limited already dedicated to shopping. It just
I mean,
seems
I'm looking at this, and I could see so much potential for a third park, like especially that upper right part, that little square on the right side.
that little square right there in particular.
That little square, like I could see Beast Castle, like I could see like the Beauty and the Beast attraction, like just that square alone.
Right there, man, right there. I know. Hey, look, George. When I saw that little square right there too, I saw potential, but that square right there. No, what do you think, Dre? I mean, am I off base here? And if I am, I am.
No.
But what do you feel?
No,
do you think this is really going to become Disney Springs, or?
You're exactly right. The illustration is simply a proposal to show what it's not zoned for already, right? So they wouldn't, publish a complete illustration showing what it could be, the potential of a theme park only zone area would be with a theme park. It doesn't make any sense. You would do it with other things to show the flex, if they were given the flexibility to do, then, they could do. Yeah, right. It's all about where you're wanting to kind of end up.
Right.
And how you get there. So it's, if you want it to be a flex use space, yeah, you would show like hotels, you would show shopping, you would show dining, things that would be kind of attractive to the city, but not necessarily indicate where potentially they want to go. I think it would make much more sense for a Disney Springs type atmosphere to occupy the other zone that we were talking about nearest Disney California Adventure than it would here. Just think about it logically. The Garden Walk right now isn't getting traction.
And Epic Berserker actually just made a really good point right there.
Mm-hmm.
With so much of acres of shopping, then why wouldn't Disney go after Garden Walk? Like, why are they just doing it now? Like, if they really wanted to focus on shopping, they would have been like aiming for that.
But wait a minute. You're assuming. I mean, this comes with the assumption that they do not want Garden Walk. Why would you think that they don't want Garden Walk? Is it perhaps, is that the kind of vibes that Disney's given off in order to see the price go down and to see it maintain at that low level? Do you think that they're kind of like, look, I'm telling you, okay, anybody, look, Orange Grove, the aerial map with this different zones labeled,
let me bring that up.
Just looked at it, please.
Yeah, let me bring that up. Let me bring that up so I can kind of with the different zones. Give me one sec.
Yeah, it's presumptive that they don't want Garden Walk. I'm telling you right now, they're downplaying it. Okay, because if they show interest on it, that property's valuation is going to go way, way up, okay, if they give any indication whatsoever.
Right.
They're purposefully downplaying this because, obviously, if you look at this map right here, anybody with, 2 brain cells rubbed together can determine that the Garden Walk is essential to any of the plans going forward as it relates to traffic between the Toy Story lot, Eastern Gateway, and the Disneyland Resort proper.
Right,
like, it is critical. The Garden Walk's importance in all of this, right? So I think what makes the most sense, if I just had to kind of speculate for a second, a third gate at the Toy Story lot connected via the Garden Walk to the Eastern Gateway, which would then connect to Disneyland Resort proper. That is the most logical sense. That makes the most, that for the facilitation of traffic and so forth. I think that's the obvious play here going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely correct, Ray. And here's the thing too. I see a lot of people saying, well, they can't just buy Garden Walk and then demolish it because a lot of these entities that kind of occupy Garden Walk have leases.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I will say this. There is a shopping mall in my general area, okay? That Westfield, I don't know if you guys are familiar, depending on where you live, but out here in California, Westfield is a big kind of shopping center kind of company, right?
Yeah.
Westfield owns this particular shopping center, but they don't want to have it be a shopping center anymore. I think they're going to go for more of a mixed use, residential thing or whatever. I don't know, but they're closing down this shopping district, this mall. Basically, it's a mall. But here's the thing. Yes, all of these stores and restaurants and bars and what have you in this complex have different leases that sometimes go a year, 2, 3, 4 years. And what Westfield is doing is they're just letting these expire.
Right.
So what you're seeing in this particular complex is just basically the mall becoming systematically more and more empty as time goes on. As the leases expire, they're just not renewing them. Disney can easily do that with Garden Walk. They can buy Garden Walk and let these leases expire. Is it going to be instantaneous, like they're just going to own it and bulldoze it? No, because like a lot of people have said, you have to honor those leases, but they can buy it and then just let those leases expire. Will it take a couple years or a few years? Absolutely. But I think Disney's really running the long game here if they want to do this, and I think they're willing to do that. I do not think that's off the table right now. And we got a great comment actually here from Dwayne saying Garden Walk's prices were down a long time ago, but the market is different today. It won't go for $100 million anymore. I agree, Dwayne. 100%, brother. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, well, yes, it was down before, but I mean, again, why Disneyland didn't really have a reason to take on more land than it already has, because they didn't have a full plan for the Toy Story lot. Eastern Gateway was still trying to, get up off the ground. Like these things go in phases. These things don't happen in a vacuum. There's a lot of circumstances surrounding these things. So for whatever reason, Disney didn't buy. That's fine. But I can tell you, right now that I'm telling you, they cannot not be looking at this. They can't afford not to look at this. This has got to be integral to their plan, even if they don't own it outright. Making it more accessible and connecting it to the Eastern Gateway project,
especially the location of where it's located between everything.
Oh yeah,
right.
Even if you just had a traffic flowing through their area, through those areas from Eastern Gateway to the Toy Story lot and beyond, it would make sense that be integrated into the plan at some level. I think, me personally, I think they're downplaying it. They're downplaying their interest in it to see that price go even lower than it is, and then buy it when it's more critical.
And here's the thing that's interesting. If you look at this map right here, the Garden Walk is, let me show you guys real quick. Garden Walk is this right here. Okay, this is Garden Walk.
Yeah.
Right? And what is it listed as? The Disneyland Resort Specific Plan. It's like, look, here's the thing. The Anaheim Resort Plan is more like the general Anaheim Resort area. Like you see like right here, the purple, which is Anaheim Resort. That's the convention center. Obviously not owned by Disney. Why? And I think Dave from Fresh Baked mentioned this. I think it's a great point. Why is Garden Walk orange? Why is it part of the Disneyland Resort? The Disneyland, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get too conspiratorial here. Why is it in orange? I mean, do they own a little more than we think they do? Why is it part of the
how
Disneyland
even the
Resort?
shape of it is from Garden Walk. You have like that upside down L shape, and then it comes down to that long stretch right there. So it's almost like a walking pathway up through the resort.
I don't understand it. I mean, it's kind of odd that they chose that to be the Disneyland Resort Specific Plan and not the Anaheim Resort, because as far as I know, Disney has no connection to Garden Walk, but it's orange.
Yeah, I think it's for the purposes of zoning and for stuff like the aesthetics of the areas and how they integrate into the Disneyland Resort proper. I think there's a higher standard that is applied to the areas in orange and the areas in purple. I think that's what that is specifically referring to. I think it's just for the purposes of zoning that I think the city wants it to be integrated on the same level as Disneyland as it relates to the areas in orange. So I think there are additional mandates and things that you have to abide by if you own a property in orange. I don't think that necessarily has to do with ownership specifically, but I could be wrong here. They also mentioned
more so like if it had to do with something involving the resort or the theme parks, then it would kind of coincide that they can like rework something to make it work for the resort, even though it has nothing to do with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That traffic would be facilitating, most definitely, but also like, aesthetics and kind of, how everything flows. It would be a natural extension of the Disneyland Resort and not, because they're so close. There's so much pedestrian traffic that goes through that and so forth. It would be weird if you would have different zoning standards for something that is so close in proximity. So I think that's why the distinction there. But look, listen, it is very interesting. They did include, I think even the city kind of felt down the line that this would be a natural route for Disney to take in some respects. So that's why that zoning pre-exists there. Look, I think the, to kind of wrap this up and maybe get to some of these comments here, I think Eastern Gateway is definitely going to go forward. Is there's so many other what am I trying to say? It would provide so much impact to the Disney Resort proper. It would provide parking. It would provide extra real estate for Disney California Adventure. The implications are massive for the Eastern Gateway. I think that's always going to be on the table going forward. And I think it's the most likely next thing to come from all this is Eastern Gateway finally getting approved. DCA definitely see being expanded in that theme park resort, that kind of east area that they outline in the proposal. I think that is probably a for sure thing, and then probably third gate after that. I think that's the way these things would go, and of course there would be various steps made along the way in order to facilitate these changes, to mitigate their impact on the city. So I think it's where we're going. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And Dre, you're absolutely right. Let's do now the next segment of our OG55 live show, which is the comment section. We address them a little bit on the way, but we like to dedicate the whole back end of the show for your super chats and your comments and what have you to really, really dive into them. So let me go through these. I know we addressed some of them already, so I don't want to kind of I don't want to kind of
rehash those again.
Kwame, a big supporter of the channel. Kwame, thank you, sir. He says, I want to see a third park in Anaheim. I do too, brother. Absolutely. I want to see that eventually. 100%. Absolutely. I think we all do. I mean,
we all do. And I've heard some people are like, well, I think it's better that the theme parks themselves expand. It's like, yeah, I can kind of see the argument for that. But look, you've said it a number of times on this show, OG, when it comes to like the valuation, and it's like you're comparing resorts and you look at that, you look at the details and you see 3 parks compared to two parks compared to 4. I mean, it's the parks, man. That's the big valuation factor when it comes to vacation packages and so forth. And you just can't get around it. So I think a third gate really does make the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all were anticipating at some point that Disneyland would get a third gate, and I think this is Disney's golden egg opportunity to do so. It may not come right away, but I think in future plans, it definitely has the potential for them to cook something up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the next comment comes from Disney fan 1955 saying, thanks. My question is, don't you think it is sad that it is getting too expensive for regular families to go to Disneyland? What are your thoughts, Mr. Vashkai, on that?
No, it's the world's most popular local theme park, right? It's people have been going to this place for so long and have had such access to it. It really is heartbreaking that access has to be limited in some way, but that's just the operational reality of it. That everybody wants to go there, and you can't have everybody going there. So it's how do you regulate that out? One of the ways you do that is via pricing, and I think it is unfortunate because if it wasn't as popular, the price wouldn't necessarily be as high. But we live in a time when Disneyland is like one of the most popular theme parks on the West Coast, and you just have to, you know, you have to make do with that, you know, reality. So it's it is heartbreaking because, I mean, but Disneyland, I think even in Walt's day was a luxury item. You know, I there were, you know, it was kind of the way it was. And I know Walt himself got criticism from how much he charged, you know, in the theme park and all that. But it's like, hey, there's a lot to maintain here. We put on the best show possible. We give everything we can give. And it was kind of understandable from that viewpoint. But now it's kind of one of these things where it's like you can't have the whole world coming in. So, you know, what do we do? And it's it really is unfortunate.
What do you think, Mr. Family Man?
Yeah, I mean, especially with all this going on now, you know, if Disneyland Forward comes to fruition, expect the prices to go up even higher than they are now. So, I mean, if you want to look at the prices today, folks, take them while you can get them, because, you know, the second that Disney gets approved for this, they're gonna take it for what they can get and give it all the gusto. So, I mean, unfortunately, you know, for how much money that Disney's going to have to be putting into this project, you know, they're going to want to make their money back. And it's unfortunate, but we are Disney's revenue, you know, us as the fans, you know, buying tickets, dining on their property, purchasing merchandise, you know, it all goes in the great bank of Disney. And, you know, it's unfortunate because, as you both were saying, everybody and their grandmother wants to go to Disneyland or a Disney park for that matter. And it's just boiling down to the point of, you know, can a regular day-to-day family of four, you know, on a fixed income be able to experience a Disney vacation? And sometimes, you know, in order for them to do so, they have to monetize of what they want to do, how much they want to do it for a certain length period of time. And I think that's kind of what at some point we all have to do. You know, it's, you kind of have to pick and choose your battles, what you want to do. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it. So it's unfortunate, but you know, it's the way of the land now.
Yeah. Well, I want to know why you're giving me cake that I can't eat, George.
Yeah.
No, I completely.
Hey, you know what? You're lucky. You're lucky I'm giving you cake. You have Carl's Jr. So, I mean, come on.
Exactly. Right.
I completely agree. I mean, look, here's the thing. And I've said this on many, many videos. Like, it's a balancing act because, like, here's the thing. It's like people would complain when the prices are so high that they're pricing families out. But believe me, if it was $10 to get into Disneyland, and I'm exaggerating here, but I'm just kind of giving you kind of like an example. If it was super cheap to get into Disneyland and the Magic Keys were super cheap to get in, the crowding would be a major, major problem, like way worse than it is now. So Disney falls on one side of the trap or the other. Either they price it accordingly where they can keep, there's that barrier to entry where it mitigates the crowding, or they have it really cheap and the floodgates open and everyone comes in. But either way, no one's happy. Either it's too expensive and the average family can't afford it, or it's so cheap that everyone is here and it's a 9-hour wait for Peter Pan. So there's no real solution. I think people, both Disney and the fans, need to understand there has to be some sort of discomfort. Like, you're going to have to deal with some kind of thing you don't want to deal with. And that comes from that. I'm directing that both at Disney and the fans, because I just think there's not a perfect world where you can just have cheap passes, cheap Magic Keys. When you walk into the park, it's not crowded and everything is a 5-minute wait.
And then you have the people that say, well, if I just go to a regular amusement park, I don't have that issue. Yeah. You can't compare a regular amusement park to Disney. You just can't, you know. I mean, you can get so many people within an amusement park in each day, but I mean, this is a themed resort that people want to go to. for a lengthy period of time. And that's even like what they did with the Dream Keys. They temporarily put them on hold. Why? So they can have a better way of controlling of how many people can get in the park at a time.
Right.
Yeah, and,
right.
and as we've found out, even with the reservation system, you're going to have to leave somebody out, right? I mean, you're going to have to, somebody's going to be on the outside looking in. So even a reservation system is not the kind of end all be all solution to this. Part of that's pricing, part of that's the reservation system. I'm sure they're going to manipulate that in some respects to try to figure that out and balance that out. But it's just kind of the operational reality. It is what it is. And honestly, too, there are some benefits to having such a high price tag. It allows them to, put on some world-class entertainment, allows them to kind of provide the services and great value that we've come to expect from Disney. I understand right now that it doesn't look quite like it, but I can tell you that there are things that are coming back on the horizon, and through this expansion that we've been talking about here, there is some good news coming forward. Also, too, there's one other little thing to having the prices so high. Like, I don't want to get too judgmental, and this has no implications when it comes to race, religion, creed, whatever. I'm just saying. We've heard Knott's Berry Farm having some issues with their consumer base, right? With their guests. Okay, we've heard some instances involving some maybe some altercations, maybe altercations involving firearms and so forth. When you have prices too accessible, then anybody will take advantage of those things, and sometimes you might get some unsavory types, so to speak.
Well, no, you're right, and here's the thing too, Dre. That you touched upon a good point, and here's the thing too. When you're spending, like, you go to Magic Mountain, and it's very cheap, it's very affordable, right? It's not. You're not investing too much into that vacation, so to speak, right? As a family. But if you throw down like $1,000, a couple thousand, $3,000-$4,000 on a Disney vacation, well, this is a serious thing for you now. Yeah. You've put so much money into this vacation. You're not gonna fuck this up. Right? Hey, I dropped $3,000 on this trip, kids. We're gonna have a good time, and no, you're not gonna stand on that railing. I'm not getting kicked out after I just spent $4,000.
Right.
There is a level of I don't want to say respect, but like when you spend that much money,
there's a mentality.
It's a different
that kind of goes into it.
Like you blew a lot of money on this, and we're not getting kicked out for this. Yeah,
I mean, what? Listen,
I do that all the time, and there's even just the three of us. I tell my son Josh all the time. I say, I spent all this money. You are going to stand in this line. You will wait. It's like
right. Yeah, it's a lot of money to spend. So there is a little different. There's a mentality difference there in regards to how you are in the parks after you spend that kind of money. So yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like it's like for females, like they buy these purses, right? Mm-hmm. You buy a purse at Macy's or whatever for $75, you're going to treat it a little differently than the purse you bought over at Louis Vuitton. That would cost you $3,500.
It's true.
It's a little different.
Please, don't bring my wife into this, please.
Well, and Dwayne even points out the Toontown Brawl. Yeah, the Toontown Brawl happened, and these things do happen. And of course, when you have a confluence of people, you're going to get unintended outcomes and so forth. We saw Rivers of America, that incident where the lady decided to go to the restroom where a restroom wasn't afforded to her. That was quite interesting. Look, you're going to get that, right? But I tell you what, that's a drop in the bucket compared to something like the what is it? The Yippies invasion of Disneyland in the 1970s, or even like the stabbings and some violence that occurred in the 1980s with Disneyland. Right. So look, listen. Yes, it is unfortunate that the prices are so high and are as inflated as they are. Yes, there's no question, but there are some benefits with that too, is what we're saying.
Yeah. And Sammyland, friend of the channel. Love you, Sammyland. Thank you so much for your support as always. Sammyland says there's no way my entire family would be able to afford passes now. I'm glad we went in the 90s as much as we did. Sammyland, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry to hear that. It always saddens me when someone can't go to these parks when they want to go. That hopefully things turn around and you guys are able to get those passes. I really hope that happens for you guys. But that is a reality. I mean, a lot of families right now are priced out. I mean, it's not cheap to get Magic Keys at Disneyland. The Dream Key is $1,400. It's expensive, even if you're making
look at even these after-hour parties. They're just as much, if not more, than an actual day pass.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm with you, Sammy Lee. And I'm sorry, the 90s were kick ass.
Oh, they were. Yeah, the 90s were awesome.
Hey, we used to have passes too, and we can't afford them anymore. So, Sammy Lane, I'm right there with you. I'm right in your shoes. But
and honestly, I'm actually in that same boat too. I mean, even though I have a pass, it's unfortunate that I had to do this, but I'm the only one that has the pass. I can't afford 3 passes each year for both coasts. That's, it's so unfortunately, it's kind of like I pick and choose that I buy the pass for myself. I'm able to get the discounts for all 3 of us. And whenever Jess and Josh are able to go, I just purchase them a base ticket.
Yeah. Right. And our friend Dwayne, and Dwayne, thank you so much, man. I do appreciate it. I see Dwayne's comments on my videos all the time, and Dwayne is really awesome. He always provides a lot of great insights. So thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate you, brother. But he's saying people forget the pandemic screwed Disney financially for over a year. This is payback time, I hope, for third park because demand had returned. Yeah, and Dwayne, you're right. A lot of people forget that. And this is one of the main concerns I had with like Disneyland Resort in particular and those extended lockdowns. Yeah. It was month after month after month, and there was no theme park guidelines, month. And it ended up being like a year and like a couple of months where it was
412 days.
How many?
412 days.
412 days. And you think Disney's gonna reopen and just be like, hey, business as usual, we're not gonna cut anything, and every cast member is gonna keep their job, and it's gonna be utopia, and there's gonna be rainbows and unicorns. It's not gonna happen that way. Of course they're gonna lay people off, of course they're gonna make cuts, of course they're gonna downsize. This is what companies do when they take billion-dollar losses. Disneyland,
and especially the bigger the company, the harder the loss.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right. Exactly. These companies don't. Disney, I know a lot of fans want to think Disney's invincible. It's like some God-given right. It will always be here. That is not true. Do not get comfortable with the idea that Disney will always be here. Sears was the invincible company in the 80s. When I was a kid, the Sears catalog was the Bible. Okay, during Christmas time, the Sears catalog was the Bible. It was the most in-demand thing ever. Sears no longer exists. Okay, Disney could easily become Sears. Yeah. You can't get comfortable with the idea of Disney just always being here. Disney took a billion plus loss when the parks were closed for all that time. They have to recoup that. It's either that or the parks get spun off to some other company or whatever. But these kind of things, these companies have to recoup that money somehow. They just have to.
They do, and that's almost happened in Disneyland and Walt Disney World's history multiple times, where the parks were this close to being spun off, or any number of things happening to them. Look, it's like you said, OG. It's just we think of Disney as this kind of institution that we pass down, and it will always be here. And it's like there's no guarantee that's going to be the case. I mean, just think of Kodak, right? I mean, they were the biggest company ever, and then once digital cameras came out, that was pretty much it. They didn't correct course fast enough, and they were on the outside looking in at a certain point. That's why the recent photo supply store went from the Kodak photo supply store to the Nikon photo supply store or whatever.
But I mean, I have to admit, actually, I was one of those people, like you automatically assume, Disney's not going anywhere. And then when the Pandy showed up, it's like, oh my gosh, this is reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that that is the case. I mean,
Right.
we always, the prior scenario that I would talk about was like, what if people just decided to stop going to theme parks? For a little while there, that might have kind of been the case, depending on how this the pandy all shaped out. Maybe people don't feel comfortable. Maybe people have reservations about it, and so forth. And what happens when Disneyland and Walt Disney World are empty? What does that do? Where do they go from there? How do they course correct? So they have to remain relevant in all kinds of respects, in all kinds of ways, in order to stay ahead of these curves and to keep these parks occupied.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. Disney is not invincible, you guys.
Yeah.
Disney could just as easily become Sears or Blockbuster or Tower Records. It can go the way of the dodo bird, basically. Okay. So, yeah, it's the biggest company right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. A lot of companies that have been bigger and have been around longer have gone under. And Disney has come this close quite a few times in its history, so it's
they
scary.
have to do what they have to do.
You got to do what you got to do. And here's the interesting thing. And I know we're kind of digressing a little bit, but hey, why not? Let's just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Chapek has a 3-year. Here we go. I bring it up, Chapek. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, God.
Chapek has a 3-year contract until February of 2023. Mm-hmm. A lot of fans, even myself included, when he was chosen, it was kind of a surprise. Chapek, what the hell? Why Chapek, Iger? Mm-hmm. Is it possible that this guy was coming? No, and Chapek's aware of it. No inside baseball, no 4D chess, whatever. Chapek, they let Chapek know, hey, you're only going to be in here for 3 years. We want you for 3 years to sort of make the cuts, do what you have to do to keep the company afloat. Because like a lot of people in the company and fans know Chapek's the hatchet man. Yeah. So what better guy to have in charge of Disney than the hatchet man, who can, after the pandy, right, would be this guy who can make the cuts and sort of keep this thing floating, especially after the $70 billion Fox purchase, that the ink wasn't even dry on that deal when this pandy hit. Is it possible that Chapek is in here as a wartime CEO for 3 years, and after the 3 years, it's kind of like a mutual agreement that he's going to leave and someone else will come in? What are your thoughts on that, Dre? Do you think this is possible?
We've proposed that very idea on the show a couple of times, actually, that he was a guy that was just brought in to kind of preserve Iger's legacy on one hand, right, and also weather the storm. And it's a win-win for the board, because it's like, well, if he fails or if he has failures, we just pin it on him. But if he's successful, then we just reevaluate his contract at 2023, 2024, whatever.
Right.
And play it by ear, because right, he is a numbers guy, and a lot of people are saying, well, okay, he's bad on this, he's bad on that, which I will admit, I have my faults with him as well. But I mean, if you look at the recent quarterly earnings, I mean, it showed progress.
No, I mean, yeah, Wall Street loves him for sure. The numbers are not bad right now.
Because I mean, look at really the time frame when they appointed him as CEO, right as the pandemic started, right as the shutdown was going on. It's like, why would you want to then make one giant leap like that during a time when no one knew what the hell they were doing? It's like, well, right, I think Disney, in the back of their minds, I think they really did know what they were doing.
It's possible, you guys. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, it's possible that Chapek is well aware that at February 2023 is when he will leave, unless he's a massive success and maybe he'll stay on. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's the hatchet man. I mean, he's known as the cut guy, so that's the kind of guy you kind of want right now, right? Yeah. So it kind of makes sense in a way. Now, long term, it might not make so much sense, though. So maybe maybe there is an end date for him, and maybe he's aware of that. I don't know, but it's interesting. It's very, very interesting.
The wartime CEO allegory, that's pretty good. That's a perfect description of it, because it's like, hey, look, when you don't need a hatchet man, when times are good and the economy's on on the upswing, who do you have? Yeah, maybe that's different than somebody that gets you through the tough times, so to speak. So I think it's a very apt description, apt comparison. Look, I think it speaks to even Bob Chapek's mindset when it comes to like some of these contracts, right? How he doesn't want like long-term contracts for entertainers, for entertainment and content creators and so forth, or contributors or whatever. It's like, oh, why am I having to be evaluating myself for my performance every couple of years while these people don't? Shouldn't they be on kind of the same system? And yeah, that's the mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next question, JD Mean Gruen says, if they expand Paradise Way to Walnut, it will connect to Grand California, and that solves most of the Disneyland Drive access issues. Let me go ahead, JD, because I'm honestly... yeah,
it's kind of what I saw here. I think we're on the same wavelength there, because as we were talking it out, I think that's the way you go. You just connect Walnut Street to Magic Way, right?
That's interesting. I'm not familiar with... So what would be... So is this... What's it? Is this Paradise Way, right? Or no, this is Catella, right? Right here? This is Catella?
I can't see the cursor, but the lower portion below Disney California Adventure is Catella, right? That main artery, that's right. Catella. And then you have Disneyland Drive, which is in between Paradise Pier Hotel and Disney California Adventure, right? Between the Pixar structure and the downtown Disney / Disneyland Hotel lot is Magic Way. And then on the outside of all of that, so you're gonna go west of Disneyland Drive. That main street right there is Walnut Street.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I believe, pull up that comment again real fast.
Let me go ahead and get that. If they expand Paradise Way to Walnut, it will connect to the Grand Californian.
Paradise Way.
I'm not familiar with those streets. I know my way around the resort, but I honestly don't know the street names because I just kind of do it on autopilot in a way. Like,
yeah, I know, right?
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. The street. I'm assuming Paradise Way is one of these streets that like around Paradise.
Well, and if you two don't know, there's no way in hell I would know. So.
yeah, exactly. No, I believe you're correct. I would think not. I would think that they want to keep that real estate as open as possible, right? This is why they're getting rid of Gene Autry Way and all this kind of stuff, right? Disneyland Drive and so forth. They're wanting to keep that as open as possible for future development. And so I think that's where Magic Way comes in, that any access path be a bit north of that location in order to open that whole area up.
Yeah, and I kind of want to, because he actually, JD submitted 2 questions, so two comments. I want to bring up his, since I have
cool.
Since we're addressing his stuff. JD says, important side note, closing Disneyland Way would also make it possible to expand Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, JD, this is 100% true. If they were to close that, you could expand Galaxy's Edge, maybe even put that Star Cruiser Hotel in that land over there and connect it somehow.
That's where I think they do something more for a Disneyland expansion. I really don't foresee, now that we're talking about it and everything, Disneyland has such a distinct look as a park already for over 65 years. I can't foresee them kind of escaping out of the look to Disneyland. So I would think, and I think someone else had mentioned it in the comments, that I think a third park and then the expansion of DCA would suffice on top of maybe adding on to Galaxy's Edge for Disneyland.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
we'll see. And maybe Disney's waiting to see how that Star Cruiser does.
And
that's a big
I'll say it here again too. That Star Cruiser, that's Bob Chapek's baby, and his vision for that was that there was going to be a Star Cruiser hotel at every single place that there's a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. At that time, it included Tokyo. If they could get the Oriental Land Company to sign off on it, they weren't budging though. But Paris and Disneyland, right? this is kind of the mentality here. And as I was pointing out to some other folks talking about this before, the Star Cruiser can be anywhere. And there's no windows.
That's true.
And it's transportation, to and in. And they can do that quite easily with a rerouting of some of the maintenance roads back there to get you into to Galaxy's Edge. That hotel can be anywhere. And they even talk about how some of these kind of ancillary lots that they have all over the place that they keep, various cast member parking in. They even talk about, hey, we'd love to use those for maybe hotels and, be approved for some of our room allotment and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of speaks to that a little bit. And so I don't think they would use prime real estate that connects directly to the theme parks for use of that hotel. I think it would be one of those ancillary lots that they would put on. Interesting.
And we have a donation here from Sammyland of $1. Thank you, Sammyland. You've always been a big supporter of the channel. We all appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
And I do hope at some point in time you and your family could make it back out to the Disney parks in some form or another.
Absolutely, Sammyland. I hope so too. I hope you get to make it down there. And when you do make it down there, give us a holler. Maybe we can all meet up or something. That'd be kind of cool. It'd be fun. And Kwame Alexander, quick question from Kwame. What live streaming software are you using for this? I use StreamYard for this, actually. And I love StreamYard, Kwame. So if you make content on the regular, you want to do some live streams or what have you, I highly recommend StreamYard because they and
it's been highly flexible for our purposes, so it's actually done really well.
yeah, absolutely. And the Fireball review says Disneyland Park itself is already massive. They need a third gate and more at DCA. Yeah. Side note, you guys have the best Disney Channel on YouTube. First of all, thank you so much, Fireball. We all appreciate that. I mean, thank you so much. Best YouTube Disney Channel. That's humbling. Thank you. In terms of Disneyland Park already massive, I think I agree with you on that. I think it's a pretty stacked park already. Even in terms of like just the amount of rides, attractions, and everything offered at that park, it kind of doesn't need a whole lot more, except for Tomorrowland, of course. They need a third gate more. They need a third gate and more at DCA. I agree. I agree. We need more DCA. We need a third park. Disneyland's a stacked thing. It's so overwhelming already. But
it's like a day and a half park. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's one of my big peeves with them doing Runaway Railway there. It's like, look, I understand it's like a perfect fit for Toontown, but it would have fit just as well in Hollywoodland. They're putting it in the Hollywood Park in Florida. They put it in the Hollywood Park. DCA needs that kind of ride way more. But George, you're a Florida guy. What do you think? Do you agree Disneyland kind of already has a little, like they're kind of already doing it? They don't really need a whole lot more.
I think Disneyland is pretty much safe to say they are on good terms as far as having enough in the parks for people to enjoy on a daily basis.
Right.
I was really surprised with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway because first of all, I thought Toontown was on the chopping block for sure. I thought
me too.
I thought that was going to be an expansion of Fantasyland. Like I thought that connected with the Fantasyland Theater. That was just going to be, and then when they announced that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was going there, I was like, well, that's out of the plan. Toontown's staying, So, it does kind of strike it odd because I'm so used to seeing Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway at Hollywood Studios in the Grauman's Chinese Theater, so it already has that feel of, you're walking into a Mickey Mouse cartoon, and it's going to feel very different. Experiencing that at Disneyland because it's going to be a whole different type of queue. Even though you're kind of walking into the El Capitan Theater, but it's still the setting of Toontown where it's not placed like in a real world setting of how the Grauman's Chinese Theater is.
It's going to be weird.
But I would have loved to have seen it at DCA. I do agree DCA needs a lot more, and I've been saying it as much as you guys have. Disneyland needs a third gate. I don't care what anyone says, who objects to it. Right now, more than ever, it doesn't even have to open right now. They just need a third gate in process.
Yeah, they do need a third gate. And here's the thing too, is like, you know, in terms of the third gate, I mean, I would love to see kind of like if they were to do like a Westcott, just do the World Showcase end of that whole park. Because Future World, from what I understand, is dead at Epcot anyway. I think they're getting rid of that, right?
Yeah, I think, but what they could actually do is they could have sort of like countries that kind of represent the state of California. You know, I mean, they could still add the Mexico pavilion sort of thing, like the representation, you know, with the Hispanics and the Latinos, because I mean, they could add a whole Coco section. Coco could have its own land, you know, as far as like with the land of the dead and what have you, like a boat ride through. I mean, that would be so awesome, regardless if they add it to Pixar Pier anyway. But another thing is that I noticed a lot of people saying that why add a third park when you could just, you know, you need more for California Adventure, which is true. California Adventure does need more. But you even take the Florida parks. You can go into Hollywood Studios, ride all the rides. It could be a half day, but they still put a place to make Animal Kingdom, you know, which is still currently for me a half day park. I mean, but hey, at least we got Kite Tails to fill that gap. You know, but it's like,
dude, worth it. Totally worth it.
Hours upon hours of entertainment.
Oh yeah, totally worth it. I mean, and here's the thing that people don't understand is that like the amount of parks, it's a psychological thing. Like Disney could build one ginormous mega 1,000 acre theme park, but in the general public's eye, psychologically, it's still one park. It's still just one park. When you add 1, 2, 3 parks psychologically, okay, even if it's less than the one mega giant park, psychologically, it gets people thinking, well, I can't do 3 parks in one day. So what do people do when they can't do 3 parks in one day? They book a hotel. They book a hotel. So I think a third park would do buco business for the Disneyland Resort on property hotels, as well as the good neighbor hotels in the area. I mean, it would be a huge boon for the whole resort.
And that's why the city hung on to it like they did. If you look at the proposal, it even outlines that the Toy Story lot was only temporarily given approval to be a lot, and that only goes to 2024.
Wow.
I mean, they were holding on to that thing like, we're going to get a third gate, because even the city of Anaheim recognizes that would be a huge boon to Anaheim business. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry. Finish.
No, go ahead. I was going to digress a little bit back to the former discussion, so please go ahead.
Finish up that part is Disney. I know you're listening, and I know all the fans would love to see a Westcott, but it would be so kick-ass. I want to see a heroes and villains. Like, I want to see one side of the park dedicated to the heroes, and then it transitions to the Disney villains. Because other than like when you come around this time for Halloween, the villains don't really have a permanent imprint on the parks as I think they should. And I mean, for me, that would be so awesome.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool. They've been throwing around that idea for a long time. Villains Park. So I remember hearing that in like the 90s. That would be big business. I mean, especially during Halloween. Oh my gosh.
Huge. They've won. I mean, I know Imagineering has kind of circled that wagon a couple times. They want to go ahead and do something.
Imagineering, let's bring that wagon into the garage, shall we?
Exactly, right? Oh boy. Yeah, look, they want to. They want to. I if we're going IP based and so forth, I think that there's a good chance for that. I know for Westcott, you're talking about countries and so forth. Westcott was going to be like continents, right? And it would be the architectural styles of each kind of major country within those continents and how they kind of influence the other. It was really kind of this ambitious idea, really cool. But going back to the discussion about like Toontown and so forth, it's funny that you guys bring this up, because I had somebody good friends with that lived in California whose husband worked as a Fantasmic technician back in the day, And even they, back when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was being built, even they were saying, "Oh, Toontown's going to be demolished for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and all this kind of stuff." Even they didn't have because it was so imprinted on their minds that Toy Story was on the chopping block. It just had to be that they couldn't get around this idea that Toy Story wasn't on the chopping block. And now, years later, we have a revitalization project. I would have never have foreseen that, but I think railroad infrastructure. I think there's some kind of projects that will improve the infrastructure of the overall resort, which is why I think that specific project was earmarked. Stuff to fireworks, stuff to, keeping that area open after 8 and so forth. So I think that's why railroad was placed in that area. But I do agree. DCA needs more, but without Eastern Gateway, that kind of left the Hollywood Land area in limbo. So there you go.
Yeah, and our friend Epic Berserker says here, question, because Disney took over 20th Century catalog, but due to the big price tag and the pandy, can we see Chapek selling off 20th Century? I don't think so. I think that
not for the hassle that they went through to get it.
Right. It was a big ordeal it was a big ordeal to get it. Number one. Number two, a lot of the stuff that the Fox garnered for Disney is a huge boon for Disney. A lot of the X-Men and Marvel stuff,
Simpsons,
the Simpsons, the Star Wars stuff that the rights were still kind of in limbo for certain I think the original trilogy, things like that.
Yeah.
They garnered a whole lot. Now, look, a lot of fans don't really notice how much of the Fox stuff has been incorporated into Disney, because a lot of fans they focus on the parks and they focus on like Disney Plus. But if you go to Hulu, log into Hulu, and there's a ton of Fox and FX stuff going on in there. Fox was a big deal for Disney. They're not going to sell. They're not going to sell Fox. They're not going. Now they might sell individual maybe IPs that they don't necessarily need that they got from Fox. I don't know. That's a possibility. But in terms of,
I'm still waiting for Kevin McAllister to show up in the parks. I want to see.
It's going to happen. I'm telling you, I can feel it. I can feel it. It's going to happen.
That's going to be the expansion. They're going to have the giant house covered in snow with all lights, and that's for the holidays. And you have to walk through the house and don't get hit with the booby traps.
That'd be great.
Yeah, he can go to Walt Disney World and ask for directions in the Hall of Presidents. That'll be interesting. I think people know what I'm talking about. I won't go any further than that. But yeah, I don't see them. I don't see them getting rid of Fox. It's just they like you said, they just poured way too much money from that. They've closed certain studios down. Everything has been to incorporate Fox more into Disney's business plan. Like you said, Hulu, great point. There's a lot of Fox stuff on there that creates value, especially for like the Disney bundle between Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus and stuff like that. It's folks, we're Fox is here to stay.
It's here to stay. Now there's been rumors of like Disney spinning off ESPN and things like that.
Yeah.
And that, while I think that is even unlikely, I think that that's more probable, or Disney kind of like, selling ABC. Look, that's a possibility. Like ABC is sort of old media.
It is.
It's not sort of old media. It is old media. Mm-hmm. It's legacy media. It's not really. With Disney Plus and all this other stuff and Hulu and all the streaming stuff, does Disney need ABC anymore?
Well, it's even like what they did with ABC Family.
Right. I mean, ABC is sort of like, the Eisner bought that in like the mid '90s when they wanted like an
television presence.
Right, a television presence to have their shows and movies, but you don't need it anymore. You have your own platform, your own streaming. You have Disney Plus, you have Hulu. You have all these other avenues now. ABC is probably more likely, and I'm not saying, I just want everyone to know, I'm not saying I don't think Disney's going to sell ABC. I'm saying ABC is more likely to be sold off than the Fox IP, in my opinion. There's less use for it.
I ABC and even ESPN, because ESPN, man, that's been draining money out of the company for.
Oh yeah.
A long time. Some of those contracts that they have with some of those sports leagues, it's killing them, and they still haven't.
That's why I want to go to Disney Springs to experience the NBA experience. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy. The stories we could tell on that one. But, oh man, I wish I could reveal. But anyway, the ESPN kind of line of their business has just been, I mean, you look at some of those contracts and they have to pay billions of dollars to like the NFL and MLB for their kind of exclusive contracts and stuff, NBA. And it's just, it is kind of a drain on their business, and they still haven't, even years after the fact, they still haven't kind of wrangled that in. So yeah, I would foresee an ESPN or ABC as, incalculable as that might be, over a 20th Century Fox for sure.
Absolutely. And we have a couple more before we get going here. Mm-hmm. To my 1 hour and 50-minute crew, thank you guys for sticking with us.
I told you,
it was a long wait.
Cross the T's and dot the I's on this whole 82-page proposal.
Yeah, exactly.
So our good friend Dwayne again, Blue Sky, turn Eastern Gateway to theme park expansion, add 10K garage to Toy Story lot. See, the problem with that though, Dwayne, is that the Eastern Gateway land isn't that big, and you wouldn't really garner that much in terms of a theme park expansion. It's better for a commute to get people to and fro as to have guest flow moving through back and forth. Yeah, it's better for that, or even if if people really want the brick and mortar shopping, I mean, maybe something like that would be better for the shopping, because it's a few acres. It's just not enough for a theme park. I don't think you could fit much there. It's
just, like you said, it's just not big enough. It's perfect size for like a parking structure, but not really. You're surrounded on all four sides by buildings and highway and all this kind of stuff. It just wouldn't be super practical to do that. I understand the intent, but it's just not. It's just not there. Trust me, Eastern Gateway is going there, folks. It's going there. They need the parking. If they develop anything on any of these plots of land, like the western section or the Toy Story lot or whatever, they're going to need parking for anything they put on there. That's just the bottom line. They're at a deficit now. So yeah, that's coming. Also, too, one of the things that we didn't touch on really is just how many rooms that are at Disneyland Resort. We have it's allocated for like 5,600 or whatever. We only have like 2,300 rooms. I think the Paradise Pier is 475. Grand Cali's, I think, around 1,000. I think there's 745 at Disneyland Hotel. I believe it's kind of how it all goes down. I might have my numbers confused. But you're talking about 2,300 rooms. Walt Disney World has 36,000 plus. Okay? It's ungodly, all right? And they want to increase the room output. There's just no two ways around it. But in order to do that, you're going to need structures for that as well.
36,000 rooms at Walt Disney World to go on 4 attractions and 1 theme park.
Right, I know, right? Yeah, there's no rides, but we got all these rooms, man.
The resorts are kind of like theme parks if you visit all of them.
That's funny, George.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. It's wild.
It's wild. And Mara Parker, longtime supporter of the channel, says heart, Orange Grove 55, and a little orange emoji. Thank you so much, Mara. We appreciate your support. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you, Mara. And Disney Fan 1955 says, here's a question for you. Are you surprised how many shows that there are about Disney parks? And then he or she continues with on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, look, the whole Disneyland vlog thing seems to be pretty lucrative for a lot of people. The trackers have done very well for themselves. There's countless people that have done this that have done that. It's successful. So whenever you have a model that works, you're going to have a lot of people following that model. Sure. So I'm not too surprised. I mean, it is a niche market for sure. We're all weirdos here.
All weirdos, that's for sure.
We're all weirdos, but I mean, no, I do think that it is a niche market, but I do think that there's a lot there in terms of there's a lot of people that want to watch that, and that was one of the things too. I got to be real with you. when I started my channel, I didn't really watch a lot of them. I was more into like Collider and like Jedi Council and stuff like that. I was never a Trackers fan or like these vlog fans. I'm still really not, to be completely honest. But it is a big market. I'm in the minority. A lot of people love that stuff. And so whenever you have success, it's going to breed more and more and more and more of that. What do you think, Dre, in regards to how kind of like, I guess they're saying how saturated the market is with these Disney parks blogs?
Well, to be honest, there's not that many that you can kind of name off the top of your head. Like there's a lot, right? But I mean, these parks get 18 million, guests a year, kind of thing.
Right.
I'm actually quite surprised at how few there are. And I think in the space that we're at, I think we're in a comfortable position where we're not really vloggers.
Right.
We're not really, updating people on every single news item that comes out, like a Walt Disney News Today or even a Fresh Baked or something like that. We're this kind of commentary channel that we discuss these things in depth and I think our viewers appreciate it. So I think in our space, in our little corner of this kind of Disney realm on YouTube, I think we're in a very comfortable position.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing I love about like what we do here is because we are different. Like we're not going to come on here and be like, okay, I have an unboxing for you for this new Disney thing, or
Yeah.
I'm here doing the churro. I'm gonna taste test every churro flavor, which is cool. People that do that, that's awesome,
Mm-hmm.
But we do offer, like Dre said, a lot of a different approach to it, more analytical
and honestly, very, and for me being a little bit blunt here, very honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can get those people where it's like they're kind of afraid of stepping on toes, because of what they're representing. And it's like, well, yeah, let me take a drink of that nasty ass PB&J beverage at Avengers Campus. Oh, yeah, this is really good. Let me take another sip for you. Oh, yeah, that hits the spot.
This is really good. Not my favorite, not my thing. When I go out of my way for it, no. If you like this flavor, great. But not my favorite, but still good. Yeah. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Still great. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. There are definitely people, I don't mean to call anybody out, but there are definitely people who, like you said, George, they're more concerned about getting on Disney's media list than they are providing honest commentary. And I think that's one of the things we pride ourselves on this show, is that we're always going to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of like, and that's the cool thing, is because it's like, you don't really see a lot of that. You see a lot of like, I don't want to say shilling, but a lot of like just kind of like sugary content, and not, and it's like when we come on here, we're just going to give you our real opinion, and love it or hate it, love it or hate it. So, but thank you, Disney fan 1955. We do appreciate that. And we have more comments here. Then we're going to close this out. Mr. Samuel Blank says they need to connect Galaxy's Edge to Toontown. Completely agree. That would help the flow of the park tremendously.
Yes.
Add like some sort of like rock tunnel or something. I don't know. You can do it, Disney.
I think that's the intention in the future. If you look, there's kind of an expansion plot that they were developing attractions for all the way up until the Pandy, right?
Yeah.
And I think when that is developed, that's when the artery will connect those two things.
Hope so. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And our good friend Epic says again, what we ended up with Avengers Campus was not going to be the full extent of the original plans design. Yeah, that's true. And really, that kind of is true for every project in a lot of ways. I mean, if you look at the original concept art for the Indiana Jones Adventure, it's nowhere close to what we got. The show building was supposed to house, was it 3 attractions? It was supposed, the Jungle Cruise was going to go through there, Indiana Jones Adventure, and a new mine cart roller coaster, all connected in this one big show building.
And the railroad was going to pass through it.
And the railroad was going to go through it. It was like just mic drop after mic drop, and they decided not to do that. So Epic. Unfortunately, the problem with Disney is that they like to share a lot of their future plans, which is great. It's a tradition that started with Walt Disney. But the problem in doing that is that once you start to share plans, fans expect it.
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, this is the one thing too, and I was very disappointed with Galaxy's Edge when they canceled the Bantha walk around thing that they were going to do. You can get on a giant Bantha and go through the land. But here's the thing I think a lot of fans have to understand here, because I think the knee-jerk reaction with that is just Chapek bad, Chapek cheap. But you have to understand the mindset going into the opening of Galaxy's Edge. And it wasn't just Disney executives. It was the fandom too. We all thought Galaxy's Edge was going to be so busy. It was going to be the biggest shit show in regards to crowding. The last thing you want, I mean, look, they're building, they're leveling off the curbs in the hub and around the park to make way for the crowding. The last thing you want are these giant banthas walking in the middle of the walkways. I can definitely see the rationale with corporate Disney saying, look, it's going to be a mess with the crowds. Do we really need the giant banthas clogging things up even more? I think that was part of the conversation. I know it's easy to kind of fall back on, oh, he's just cheap. And that might be a part of that equation. But I do think the crowding is also part of that equation. It's not always down to the money. Sometimes it is logistics. And I think they were really, really concerned about the crowding. And we saw that with that Stardust project they did for like a year or two plus opening prior to the opening Galaxy's Edge. But what do you think, Dre, in terms of like Avengers Campus, the full extent of actual plans?
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge?
Well, I mean, this goes back to even Disneyland Forward, the discussion that kicked this whole thing off. It was when the Eastern Gateway wasn't approved and would have opened that area of Hollywoodland to future development. They had to make do. They had to now reassess where they were going when it came to the Marvel project. And I think a lot of that was just, hey, we got to go into Bugs Land. Like, while Eastern Gateway figures itself out and we reallocate that land to theme park use, in the meanwhile, let's start out with Bugs Land and move north. I think that was the idea going forward there. Oop, am I off? Am I out? I think I might be out.
I can see. No, you're good.
Oh, I'm still good?
Yeah, you're good.
OG out?
It's OG.
Okay. All right. We'll allow him to get back into the chat here. But no, I think when Eastern Gateway was taken off, it's just they have to reassess, right? And I think that's why a lot of those things got truncated down and maybe put on the back burner. Not to say that those things won't happen. It's just, maybe take a different form by the time we get to those design details and so forth. When it comes to Galaxy's Edge, look, I agree with OG in that, yes, it is disappointing when you lose like the Bantha attraction, right? It sucks. It really does hurt when you see these great concepts and stuff and they just get cut before getting out the gate. I will say, just look, Disney, maybe don't have Bob Chapek standing in front of this, big screen showing the Bantha, right? Behind him. By the way, that was after they'd already cut it from the project. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, that's the issue. If you're going to announce something publicly, when you know, especially of how media is, the second they announce it, because I remember going to the D23 Expo, the second Disney announced something, boom, it was on Facebook, it was on Twitter, it was on Instagram, it was everywhere. And it's like, if you're going to announce something, yes, I know things get in the way, I know things change, but you just have to be careful of how much then you really want to put out to the public, because fans will expect of this, because people will go nuts for it. But as far as with the Banthas are there. I mean, it's eating up crowds, but I mean, like, it's causing a lot of cluster, but the Banthas are there. Disney just had to change it to the term of lightning lane.
There you go. I like that. Epic Berserker saying, read my second part, guys. Okay, so the second part is because actual Drive's designs were kind of stolen behind the scenes, because my buddy created the designs of Campus. All I can say, oh, that's interesting. That's a little wrinkle in this discussion. Probably should have read that before. Yeah. Look, listen, sometimes that stuff will happen too. What's interesting is there was a proposal for an Incredibles attraction in Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland, right? And it was going to utilize the KUKA arm technology. And what happens? Walt, Universal swoops in, grabs that for themselves. I believe in that specific instance, it was going to be, I believe it was an attraction based on Van Helsing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And then it,
Yep.
then it went into the Wizarding World project. But they swooped in and got an exclusive deal where they were the only ones that could use KUKA arm technology for theme park use for like 10 years or something like that. And so went that project. They didn't have access to it. So sometimes that does happen. Sometimes it happens where, interesting thing too, Beastly Kingdom, right? Beastly Kingdom was supposed to go into Animal Kingdom and was supposed to be this great expansion for that park. It was originally going to be an opening day feature of that park, but that got sidelined. And when that did, those Imagineers who worked on that project, they worked on other stuff, specifically Islands of Adventure. And by the time that brought out, opened, it incorporated a lot of those design elements. And it was like, we can't go that route. So
yeah, because that's where the Dueling Dragons roller coaster and the Flying Unicorn came in. For
the kind of mythical section of that park,
And then Disney kind of sort of like threw in, okay, well then let's do Expedition Everest because we could still use, the Yeti, but let's put it over in Asia because that's where the Himalayan mountains are at. And then it became this huge thing. Okay, well let's put in Pandora, many years later. And it's like, what is Disney thinking? But I mean, it fits very well in Animal Kingdom as far as like as a land perspective goes.
Yeah, it does. And that's a great point. Sometimes these projects, they get sidelined and stuff happens behind the scenes and it sucks that we lost those original iterations. But sometimes in lieu of those things, better ideas are developed. And honestly, frankly, I think Avatar, it's a better idea than Beastly Kingdom, to be honest with you. I mean, that dragon themed roller coaster looked really cool, right? But I think what we got in lieu of those things, we got Expedition Everest, which kind of features a lot of those same flavors, and Avatar. I think those are better.
And I think it's kind of ironic, and I know we're kind of going off the subject here, but if you actually look at the main entrance of,
hey, how you doing, OG?
I'm back. My power went out. I do apologize to everybody.
Now you see why they're moving away from California, guys.
Exactly.
Sorry, I had to clown on that a little bit. Oh boy, you got one of those what is it? Those famous California blackouts, did you?
Exactly. So can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can hear you all right.
Low, but we could understand what you're saying.
Understand.
Okay. We'll go for a few more minutes and then we'll close it out. I gotta figure this power thing out. But what did I miss?
Oh no, we were just reading. We were continuing to read Epic Berserker's comments here, and he said that there was a second part to it that we may have overlooked, suggesting that some pieces of Avengers Campus simply didn't make the final cut because some some things behind the scenes may have transpired, forcing them to omit those certain things. And we were just discussing how sometimes that happens, in the case of Beastly Kingdom and like the Incredibles attraction that they had in mind for Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland, and how that was sidelined because they didn't have access to the KUKA arm technology. Universal swooped in, got that as an exclusive contract, and that was it. Sometimes these things happen. You were saying, OG, on the entrance? Sorry, George.
But what I was saying, like, just to finish off, as far as like talking about like with the Beastly Kingdom, as far as Disney was so adamant that it was going to be placed in, that if you look at the main entrance facade of Animal Kingdom, you can see on the left-hand side the dragon head as far as being part of the entranceway. And you could see at the center where it says Animal Kingdom, and it shows the silhouettes of the animals in line. You see the elephants, you see the giraffes. There's a dragon.
The dragon's in the logo.
Yes.
And I believe there are remnants of this idea in the parking lot with some of the lot names like Unicorn 6 or whatever. They were supposed to have mythical creatures, and that just didn't come in.
Well, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. All these things sort of, there's always the plans are always more grander when they're being envisioned on paper than what we actually get. Imagineering like to shoot for the moon, and even if you hit a star, you're still doing pretty well. So
and as we were pointing out, sometimes when these things finally do come to fruition, they take on certain different forms. They maybe hit some certain different areas and so forth. And sometimes those plans, what they evolve into, is better than what pre-existed before.
Right.
In the case of Avatar, I think Avatar and Expedition Everest are far better than what was envisioned for Beastly Kingdom.
Absolutely.
But we're definitely glad you were able to pop back on because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this live is going to turn into an Orange Grove 55 marathon.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get some more water, guys.
I wouldn't be able to turn it off. Yeah, no, I'm on my phone, so I do apologize for the bad quality. I'll get everything fixed next time we do this. But I want to thank both of you guys, as always, for coming on. You guys are my good friends. I love you guys, and I do appreciate all this, all the hard work you guys put into this. And thank you so much for coming on today and talking Disneyland Forward with us and taking some questions. And what I'll do is I'll start with Dre, and we'll go from there. We'll go with Dre and then George, and then we'll close it out. Dre, where can everybody at home find you on social media?
Best place to find me is at Vash Sky. It would normally be on the screen, but that's all right. It's going to be V as in Victor, ASHSKY. At Vash Sky is the best place to interact with me on Twitter. And to see me, I'm on your channel at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for Disney news info, squeezed fresh, right from the Grove. So that's where you can find me.
Perfect. And Mr. Family Man down below, where can everyone find you at home, sir?
You could find me at a lot of places. You could actually find me on my own YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23, also on Instagram under the same name, on Twitter at Disney George, which I'm actually getting a lot of responses back. So I'm definitely currently active on Twitter. So definitely check me out there. And as Vash Sky, I am on Orange Grove 55's channel with Citrus Corner. So definitely check that out as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you both, and thank you all for watching. Everyone in the chat: Epic Berserker, Disney fan 1955, Mara Parker, Dwayne, Samuel Blank, Kwame Alexander, James Med, Samueland, Fireball Review. Everybody, thank you for joining us on this live stream. I do apologize for the last few moments. I don't know what happened. Fucking California, dude.
Wait a minute. I have dropped
That
here.
is one big pile of shit.
That's it. Sorry, I don't mean to clown on California, guys, but man, there's a reason why Lake Nona's even a thing.
I'm telling you, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But we had a great show today. I do appreciate everyone for watching, and tune in. We'll be doing a lot more live streams. We'll be, so just keep your notifications on. And thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye, guys. Happy Halloween.